Welcome back to Adventures in Freeze Drying. Today I'm going to make a jalapeno peach chicken dish. Should be very tasty, probably better in season. We're a little out of season again, so the peaches aren't amazing, but they're peaches. So we're going to go ahead and get this all cooked up and then freeze dried. I've already prepped the chicken, the peaches, the jalapeno. You're going to need some chicken broth, cornstarch, soy sauce, apple cider vinegar, peach preserves, garlic powder, sea salt, pepper, and chili powder. So let's go ahead and get cooking. The first thing I'm going to do is mix up the spices that we're supposed to add to our chicken before we cook it. That way it's just more evenly coated on the chicken. So I'm going to start with a teaspoon of sea salt, followed by a teaspoon of black ground pepper, followed by a teaspoon of onion powder, which I forgot to get out earlier, a teaspoon of garlic powder. Again, this is my homemade garlic powder also. It wants a tablespoon of chili powder. And last but not least, it's going to take a teaspoon of smoked paprika, which I forgot to mention earlier that we would need smoked paprika. So I'm going to go ahead and shake that up, and then we'll add it to the chicken and get the chicken stirred up. The recipe called for the chicken to be diced, and I actually made sure that it's smaller than what I would normally consider a bite-sized piece of chicken. It's going to shrink up some as it cooks, but because I'm planning to freeze dry this for rehydration purposes, the smaller the chicken, the easier it's going to be to rehydrate all the way through to the middle. So make sure if you make this recipe, you cut that chicken up plenty small to help you get it rehydrated. Bite-sized pieces or slightly smaller, it's probably fine if you don't want to try to freeze dry this and rehydrate it. So while this sits, I'm going to get over to my pan and show you what I'm going to do instead of using oil to get this cooked up. Chicken broth is a great way to cook your chicken without using oil. You may have to add more as you're cooking to help it keep from sticking to your pan, but I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of oil or chicken broth here to my pan. We're going to let that heat up for about a minute, minute and a half. The oil said 2 minutes. This is going to start evaporating if it gets too warm. So we're going to let this get warm. We'll add the chicken and then we'll get the chicken cooked. I've added my chicken breasts to the pan. This was 3 large chicken breasts diced up. And so we're going to go ahead and get that cooked until it's no longer pink. While my chicken is cooking, I've added the peach preserves, soy sauce, apple cider vinegar, and the cornstarch. I'm going to go ahead and get that whisked together until it is well combined and set it aside until we are ready for it. My chicken is fully cooked, so I'm going to transfer it to a bowl, and then we're going to cook the jalapenos and peaches right here in the same pan. So we want to cook these just until the peaches are fairly soft. They don't need to be well cooked because we're going to add the chicken back, and then we'll add in our peach preserve dressing and cook everything for about 2 more minutes. And then our meal will be ready. This might also be really good over some rice or some rice noodles, quinoa. These peaches aren't quite soft yet. I'm going to let these go for about 2 minutes here, just letting them sit, and then we will add the chicken and finish this up. I'm going to go ahead and add my chicken back in. And then I'm going to add my dressing back. I'm going to turn my heat down just a little bit there. It's getting kind of high. I'm going to try to make sure that all the peaches and the chicken's fully coated in the dressing here by stirring it up. Then I'm going to let this continue to cook for 2 minutes here. And then we'll plate it up and try it before we get this frozen and freeze dried. We're going to give this a taste test right now before I tray it up, get it frozen and in the freeze dryer. just so we have something to compare it to. Bon appetit. I can only imagine how much better this would be if my peaches had been in season, fresh, juicy peaches. This is really good. So I'm a little nervous about the peach preserves and how they're going to freeze dry. I'm hoping since they were cooked and some other stuff added to them, they'll be okay. Okay. We'll see you when this comes out of the freeze dryer. This has been going for just about 22 hours and has about 7.5 hours of extra dry time. So let's go ahead and check on the chicken and see if we think it's dry. So it looks, I would tell you this looks very dry. It feels very dry. So let's go ahead, pull this out of the freeze dryer, and I'll meet you in the kitchen to do a rehydration test. I am going to go ahead and add a 1/2 cup of heated up chicken broth to the chicken. I have learned that sometimes the chicken broth just helps to add a little bit of flavor back that maybe you lose when freeze drying, as far as having it taste more fresh instead of having been freeze dried. Already, this is coming back to life. The chicken obviously is going to take more time to take on some of the moisture here, and I may have even added too much, but we will see. There's quite a bit of chicken here that needs to take moisture back on. So I'm going to cover this with a washcloth, and we're going to let this sit for 5 minutes, and I will be back for us to check on this. 5 minutes is up. There's definitely less just liquid in here. I feel like the middle of the chicken is not rehydrated yet. So it can definitely use a little more time. So I'm going to go ahead and let this sit another 5 minutes and just keep letting my chicken slowly soak in what it has available in moisture here. And if we need to, we'll add a little more water. I think this just needs more time right now. So I just got done microwaving this for a minute, and this definitely got even thicker, which means more than likely the moisture went into the meat. And just pushing my fork in, the inside of my meat doesn't feel crunchy anymore. So let's go ahead and give this a taste test. This is definitely still on the warm side with coming through the microwave, but I'm excited to give this a taste to see if it tastes like it did fresh. It's still very, very hot. The flavor is there. The meat still is just a little bit not rehydrated. What I had discovered in the past personally was if you just added the water and left it in like the Mylar bag and let it sit for half an hour and came back, usually the chicken was very well rehydrated, and I'm just trying to push this along too quickly. Flavors there, give the meat more time to rehydrate. And this will be excellent. So overall, thumbs up. Plan on it taking half an hour to rehydrate. This isn't going to be add water and eat. This is add something warm, cover it back up, seal it back in that Mylar bag, let it sit for 30 minutes and come back and you will have a wonderful meal. This would be excellent over some rice or quinoa to round it out. Thank you for joining me on Adventures in Freeze Drying. We'll see you next time.